All right, I guess I'll start. And today we are starting the topic time, speed, distance. So in the class today, I have tried to keep it slightly simpler, and I do not intend to discuss very difficult questions. In fact, for the discussion purpose, I have just brought in many official questions. And what we'll do is that first of all, we'll discuss a few examples to understand the concepts, and then we'll start discussion of those official questions so that the difficulty level is always kept in check. Now, I hope you guys all can hear me out, right? Please type in the message if you can hear me out. Anyone who is unable to hear me so far? Okay, I guess everyone can hear me. So in the topic time, speed and distance, in general, we always start with only one understanding, that the speed is always equal to distance over time. All the questions will be using only this concept. However, the application of the concept will be pretty much varied. So we'll start with a very small understanding of where and what kind of things can be applied. So let's start with the very first basic type of question that usually is encountered in GMAT, and that is that if a question says that a person starts from A to B and travels at a speed of 40 kilometers per hour, and immediately on reaching B, the person realizes that he has to go back. So he immediately starts going back and reaches A at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. Now the question is, what is the average speed during the journey? Now, can anyone quickly give me the answer of this question? What will be the average speed in this particular case? Okay, so I've got at least 3 answers, 4 answers, 5 answers coming like 50. So understand one thing, that average speed is never equal to the average of speeds, right? This is first thing that we need to understand. So if we are thinking that the average speed is equal to 40 plus 60 divided by 2, this is the first thing that we should discard. In fact, I should not say that the average speed is never equal to average of speeds. In a few cases, it may be. However, for the purpose of this GMAT, I would say that it's never equal to the average of the two speeds. Because here we are dealing with a question in which the speed remains constant throughout a journey. For example, if I draw the graph of this particular question, where I have speed on y-axis and time on x-axis, I will have a graph something like this, that a person starts from A, continues the journey at a speed of 40, reaches B, and then immediately changes the speed, and then continues journey from B to A at a speed of 60, right? Whenever we come across this kind of a question in which the speed is constant, and we always come across only such type of questions when the speed is constant, then the average speed is never the average of the two speeds. So what is it? Then we understand that average speed is always defined as total distance divided by total time. So that's one principle that we always have to use to answer any such question. The average speed is always equal to the total distance by total time. Now, we may have several questions that we don't know what is the distance or how to find out this thing. So that's all right. In such questions, we don't need to know the distance. Let's assume that the total distance from A to B is D. Then the D distance has been traveled twice. Once while going from A to B, and the second time while we travel back from B to A. So the total distance traveled, we can say, is D plus D, because D has been traveled twice. Now we have to find out the total time. Then understand the very basic thing, that if we are traveling from A to B at a speed of 40 and from B to A at a speed of 60, then since while coming back the speed is more, then the time will definitely be less. And since while going from A to B the speed is less, so the time should be greater. And how do we calculate the time? So once again, we are using the same principle. The time is calculated by distance over speed. So the first time, that means the time while going from A to B, can be calculated by the distance of A to B divided by the speed that we maintained while traveling from A to B. Does this make sense to everyone? And while coming back from B to A, the distance traveled is once again D, and the speed was 60 kilometers per hour. Right? So once we have this expression, now we only have to simplify this. So we have 2D times 120 divided by 5D. We simplify this, and 2 times 40, 2 times 24, and that becomes 48. So this is the first type of question and the favorite question of the GMAT, where it discusses the average speed during the journey. Does this make sense to everyone? Any question around this? All right. So I believe that this is sorted. Any questions? Anyone wants to discuss anything here? All right. Okay. So concerning this, let me just quickly give you a question to all of you around the same concept, and I would expect you to maybe answer that question quickly. All right. So I'm taking this board away. Anytime when I'm taking the board away, if you want, you can take the screenshot. That will be useful for you to refer to for the later purpose. So far, I'm just clearing the board here. Okay. Stop sharing. And now, all of you have this very first question to answer first. Quickly take 2 minutes and then tell me what your answers are. If anytime you want to say something, just drop me in the chat box that I have to say something. I have to ask something, and then I'll just unmute you then and there. Okay, so Priya has given an answer. Good. Ayush also has given an answer. Everyone else, quickly do the calculations, and no use of calculators, please. Okay, Apul has come up with an answer. Ashish, Apul, I think everybody is coming with an answer that is different from yours. So quickly check if there is any mistake. All right, now let me quickly just start working on this. The question says that Kathy traveled half the journey by the train at 80 kilometers per hour. half of the remaining journey by bus at 40 kilometers per hour, and the remaining part of the journey by bicycle at 20 kilometers per hour. All right. So let's assume that the total distance is equal to d. Then d by 2 has been traveled at a speed of 80. Then the remaining distance is again d by 2, because d minus d by 2 is equal to d by 2. So that is the remaining distance. And half of the remaining journey, this is one important point. And if you make any mistake here, then your answer will be incorrect. So half of the remaining, that means half of d by 2 will be d by 4 has been traveled at a speed of 40. And the remaining, which is once again d by 4, has been traveled by bicycle at a speed of 20. Now we have to find out the average speed during the journey. So we already have understood that the average speed is equal to total distance divided by the total time. So total distance is d, and the total time is d by 2 traveled at 80 plus d by 4 traveled at 40 plus d by 4 traveled at 20. Now we have to just simplify this. The LCM of all these numbers will come up to 160, 160, 80, so 160. And we have here d plus 2d, so 4d, d cancels out, and finally we have 40 kilometers per hour. Right. So everybody else who hasn't given the answer, did you understand this calculation? If there is any confusion, please let me know, else I'm going to change the screen quickly. Got it, Sarthak. Okay. So keep taking notes of it. Keep taking the screenshots where you find it's good to take the screenshot, and will save some time. Okay. All right. So I believe that now I have made my point. Let me just quickly move to the next concept that we want to discuss in this case. Now, okay. So clearing this board here. Now the next type of question basically involves a concept that is called relative speed. Now, this is one thing that we want to understand, that what is the relative speed. First, let me just quickly tell you that what is the type of question that comes around the relative speed, and then I'll quickly explain the concept behind it. Now, the relative speed is basically the change of distance between objects in unit time. So that is the simplest way I think I can put it forward. It is the change of distance between the objects in unit time. So usually we calculate the relative speed in the cases where we have minimum 2 objects and both of them are moving. Okay. Okay. Raghav, we have just discussed a little part of it, and now we are starting with the relative speed. So please catch up to this. Now, the change of distance between the objects in unit time, which means there are two particular cases that we can discuss in case of relative speed. One case is when the two objects are moving in the same direction. So let me quickly take a small example. For example, there are two individuals, A and B, and they both are moving in this direction. And A is moving with a speed of 5 kilometers per hour. Let's say these are two friends and they have come in the morning together to just jog around a park. So A has started running at a speed of 5 kilometers per hour, while B is running at a speed of 3 kilometers per hour. Then now let's quickly understand what will be the dynamics if they started moving together. So after 1 hour, if they continue running at the same speeds, then A must have traveled a distance of 3 kilometers and B must have traveled a distance of 5 kilometers. That means unit time here is 1 hour. So in 1 hour, the change of distance between the two objects has come up to 2 kilometers. Now that is after 1 hour. If we take that the time gap is 2 hours, what happens then? The distance traveled by A in that case will be 10 kilometers, and the distance traveled by B in that case will be equal to 6 kilometers. So once again, the change, because the change of the distance that was there between the two was 2 kilometers, now it has become 4 kilometers. That means once again in another 1 hour, there has been a change of distance between the two objects, which is 2 kilometers. So this change defines the relative speed. That means when we say the change is 2, we say the relative speed is 2. Right? So what we say is that relative speed, when the two objects are moving in the same direction, in this particular case, we are calculating it by taking the difference of the two. So in every such cases where the two objects are moving in the same direction, the relative speed is always taken by the difference of the two, and that we can represent as in standard form A minus B form, where A and B are the speeds of the two objects. Now, this is one particular case that we have taken where the two objects have started moving at the same time from the same point. But this concept is often applied in the scenario where somebody has already taken a lead. For example, there is a train which has left the station in the morning at 7 o'clock and it is running at a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. There is another train which started moving from the same station but at 8 o'clock. And now it's running at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. So in how much time will the second train catch up to the first train? So these are the typical questions that use the concept of relative speed. Let me once again repeat this question. I'm saying that there are two trains which are leaving from the same station but at different time with different speeds. First train has left the station at 7 o'clock in the morning with a speed of 50 kilometers per hour. There is a second train which has left the same station in the same direction but at 8 o'clock, and the speed that it maintained was 60 kilometers per hour. And the question will be that at what time will the second train catch up to the first train? So, what we look at in this question is that the distance between the two when the second train started is equal to 50 kilometers because first train started in the morning at 7 o'clock, 1 hour before the other train, and it is moving at a speed of 50. So in 1 hour, it must have taken the lead of 50 kilometers. Now we say that relative speed of the two trains will be equal to 60 minus 50. That means the distance between the two will continue to decrease at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour. Now in this case, I am saying decreasing, but in some cases it may increase as well. So the change word includes both the actions, increase of the distance and the decrease of the distance. That is why I mentioned that relative speed is the change of distance between the objects in unit time. So here the relative speed is 10 kilometers per hour. That means at a rate of 10 kilometers per hour, the second train will continue to bridge the gap between the two. And the gap between the two, we often term as the relative distance. So the relative distance was 50 kilometers. So the time taken for the second train to catch up to the first train will be 50 kilometers has to be bridged at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour. So the time will be 5 hours. That means 5 hours after the second train started. That means 5 hours after 8 a.m. the second train will be able to catch up to the first train. So this is how this calculation works, and the relative speed helps answer such questions. Does that make sense? Anyone has any question around here? Then please let me know. Okay, I don't seem to have the chat window right here. Still getting acquainted with it. Are we good with this? So now I'm starting to discuss, okay. All right. So now I'm starting to discuss another case of the relative speed once again. So the second case of relative speed is when the two objects are moving in the opposite direction. Okay. Can I clear this board here for a while? I think I want to clear this board because I have less space for the cases of opposite direction. So if anybody wants to take the screenshot, please do so now. Right? Clearing the board now. Okay. Now, the next case is the, again, relative speed. But now the case we are taking is when the two objects are moving in opposite direction. So the opposite direction case is, for example, that there are two individuals, they are standing at a point. One starts moving in the east direction at a speed of 5 kilometers per hour, and the second person, B, started moving in west at a speed of 3 kilometers per hour. Now, since we already have established that the relative speed is the change of distance between the two objects in unit time, so we are going to adhere to the same principle. After 1 hour, A will move by 5 kilometers and B will move 3 kilometers. So the distance between the two will be 8 kilometers because A must have traveled 5 kilometers east. So A's current position will be here and B's current position will be here from the starting point 3 kilometers west. So the total distance between the two will be 8 kilometers. So we just conclude that when the two objects are moving in the opposite direction, then the relative speed is calculated by simply taking the addition of the two speeds, because in this case what we are doing is we are simply adding this 5 and 3 to calculate the distance, the change of distance between the two in unit time. So like we had the two cases of same direction, similarly in the opposite direction case also we have two cases. For example, the first case we already have discussed when the two objects have started moving in the opposite direction from the same point. But the another case of opposite direction case is when one person starts moving from his house. Let's say A starts from his house at a speed of 3 kilometers per hour and B starts from his house at the same time at a speed of 5 kilometers per hour, and they have planned to meet at a common point, so they have started moving to the same common point, right, on the way to to the on the way to each other's home. Now the question is, if the distance between their houses is 24 kilometers, how much time will they take to meet? So once again, here we answer the question, the distance between the two when they both have started moving towards each other is equal to 24 kilometers, that we also can call relative distance, and relative speed because they are moving in the direction opposite to each other. So that is equal to 3 plus 5, 8. So in such cases, we quickly calculate that the time for them to take to meet each other on the way will be equal to the distance divided by a speed, which is 24 divided by 8. That means 3 hours. 3 hours after they have started moving towards each other, they will be able to meet on the way. Understood? Any problem around this? No, that will be given. So Soumya, that I have given that the distance between the two is already 24 kilometers, and they have started moving towards each other because they want to meet somewhere on the way. So how much time will they take to meet on the way if they have started moving simultaneously? So this is a given input, right? So the only output that I wanted was the time in which they will be able to meet on the way. Understood? So now that we have discussed the relative speed, I would quickly take you to one of the questions. And I'm just clearing the board. So please quickly take the screenshot or the notes, whatever you find is feasible. And we'll discuss a small question. All right, clearing the board now. Understand the question? The question is that we have two train stations P and Q. One train from station P started moving at 7 a.m. at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour towards station Q. Another train from station Q started moving at 8 o'clock and it maintains the speed of 80 kilometers per hour and it is moving towards the station P. The distance between the two stations is given 1000 kilometers. Now, there are two questions that I want to ask. The first, at what time do the two trains cross each other? And the second one is, at what distance from P do the trains cross each other? Take 2 minutes, try to answer this question and post your answer in the chat, and then we'll discuss this question together. Okay, Raghav has an answer. At what time? At what time means you have to give the time in the clock. Because I don't understand if you tell me 6 hours, whether that is from 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. Oh, you mean PM. That's fine. Good. So I have some answers coming up, and I think all of them are correct so far. Good. All right. So I guess we have the answer almost from everyone. So let me quickly just make a final comment on this question. Let me quickly explain. See, yes, everybody is correct. Everybody has got the right answer. So I am assuming that my session is getting successful. So, okay. When we have to look at the relative speed, we always try to ensure that the two objects that are moving have come to the same time point. So here the first train has started moving at 7 o'clock while the other train started moving at 8 o'clock. So my first objective will be to bring this 7 o'clock train to 8 o'clock. So I understand because this train is moving at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. So at 8 o'clock, the train would be at this point, which is at a distance of 100 kilometers from the starting point, because it must have traveled 100 kilometers. So the P will be here at 8 o'clock. Now, we can see at 8 o'clock, the relative speed between the two can be calculated by taking the addition, because the two trains in this case are traveling in the direction opposite to each other. So that will be 100 plus 80, which is equal to 180 kilometers per hour. And at the time when the two trains have started moving towards each other at 8 o'clock, the distance between the two, that we often call the relative distance, is equal to 1000 minus 100. First train has already crossed a distance of 100 kilometers. So the distance between the two that is left to be traveled is 900 kilometers. So we simply start answering this question, that the time that the trains will take to cross each other will be equal to the relative distance divided by the relative speed. Relative distance is 900 kilometers, the relative speed is 180, so it is equal to 5 hours. But understand, 5 hours is after 8 o'clock, right? So 5 hours after 8 o'clock makes it 1 p.m. So everybody is correct. By 1 p.m., the first train by 1 p.m. has moved for like 6 hours. So in 6 hours, the first train, the distance traveled by the train A will be equal to the speed, that is 100, multiplied by the time, which is 5 plus 1, 6 hours, is equal to 600 kilometers. So all of you have got the right answer, right? However, I want to use this opportunity of this question and also want to discuss with you how to frame the equations in several questions, because not all the questions will be based on the calculation of the relative speed. All right, is this understood? So can I just clear the little part of it and then start solving this question in another way? Do all of you understand this? All right. Now, the second thing that I'm discussing might sound boring, but I think it's really useful to build our basic fundamentals, how to answer the question when the question has so many complex things and when we have to actually structure some proper equations to answer the question. So I'm quickly going to clear this up. This is one of the ways. Let me just call it method 1 and take the screenshot, whoever wants to take it, and then clear this up. So the other thing that I'm just going to discuss is slightly lengthy method, but I think it's useful to build our basic fundamentals. Now, the method 2. Okay. Method 2 is basically looking at forming an equation. Usually, when we form the equation, then we have 3 parameters. One is speed, second is distance, third is time. The calculations usually are not made based on speeds. The equations are never formed based on speeds. Usually there are relationships between the two cases in terms of some distance or in terms of some time. So in this case, we can look at two kinds of relationship and two more methods to answer this question. Now, when we look at this question, we could perhaps say that suppose the two trains are crossing each other at some point here. Now, can we say that the first train must have taken 1 hour longer to reach at this point than the other train? Because the other train started at 8 o'clock, that means it started 1 hour late. So it must have traveled 1 hour less than train A to reach at the meeting point. So what I'm saying is that the time of train A to reach the meeting point should be equal to 1 hour more than the time of train B to meet the crossing point, to reach the crossing point. Does that make sense? So looking at these kind of relationship among the variables is something that's very useful for forming the equations, and that would be quite useful for a few questions at least which are complex. So the relationship that we have seen is that the time taken by train A to reach at the crossing point is 1 hour more than the time taken by B to reach at that point. That's one. And the other way of looking at the relationship between some parameter is the distance. We could also say that the distance traveled by train A plus the distance traveled by train B should be equal to 1000 for them to cross each other. Because if the first train has traveled a distance of A, which is this distance, then the second train must have traveled the distance B, which is this distance, right? Now, keeping these as basis, also we can answer the question without using the relative speed, which does not mean that I'm undermining the use of relative speed. I still want to keep it superior thing. However, I just want you to understand how to frame the equations in some scenarios where these are indispensable. So the time taken by A to reach at this point, how do we calculate the time? We already know that speed is equal to distance over time. So time becomes equal to distance over speed. So the distance traveled by A divided by the speed of A. Now the distance traveled by A, we don't know how much distance. Let's assume that the distance traveled by A till the crossing point, which we have to calculate, is D. Then the speed which the first train has maintained is 100. That should be equal to 1 plus. Understand, if the distance traveled by train A is equal to D, then the distance traveled by train B should be equal to 1000 minus D, because the total distance that the two trains have traveled together is equal to 1000. So here I am just simply writing the time taken by train B to reach the crossing point will be equal to 1000 minus D divided by 80. So now we have an equation, And if you simplify this equation, it will result in an answer d equal to 600, which we otherwise also got. That means at a distance of 600 from point P, the two trains will cross each other. And now if we want to calculate the time, we could also say that the time right from 7 a.m. time taken by A will be 600 divided by 100, that is equal to 6 hours. 6 hours from 7 a.m. makes it 1 p.m. So that's another way of reaching to the answer without using the relative speed. Similarly, we could use the equations of method third as well. Here, the equation is distance traveled by A plus the distance traveled by B should be equal to 1000 for them to cross each other. And the distance is calculated by speed into time. So train A has a speed 100 and the time taken by train A is, let's say, T. Now, the speed of train B is 80, but the time taken by train B is 1 hour less than the time taken by train A. So that will be T minus 1. And if we simplify this equation, we once again get T is equal to 6 hours. 6 hours from 7 a.m. gives us the same answer. That means at 1 a.m. the two trains will cross each other at 1 p.m. And if we have to calculate the distance, then we say 100 multiplied by 6 is equal to 600 kilometers. So just wanted to make a point that forming the equation is also something that we should emphasize on. Sometimes it's quite useful for us. Is that understood? So if you have understood this, then I would just like to discuss one more conceptual understanding and then we'll move forward. Can I clear this board here, everybody? All right. So clearing the board. Now, let's come to another question. Listen to the question properly and then react to it. A man leaves from home towards his office every single day. And then he usually travels at a normal usual speed. Every single day his speed remains constant. And he reaches office on time sharp at 10 o'clock every morning. Now one day, because of the traffic, his speed reduces by 25%. One day his speed reduces by 25%, so he gets late. And now he reaches office at 10:30 a.m. Now the question is, at what time does the man start his journey? Quickly take your time and try to answer this question. For others who missed something, let me repeat the question again. There is a man who every day travels from home to office at a regular speed of S and reaches office on time at 10 o'clock. One particular day, his speed reduced by 25% because of the traffic, and so he gets late by 30 minutes. He reaches office at 10:30. The question is, at what time does the man start every day from his home to his office? Take a minute, try to answer the question, post it in the chat box. Once we have a few answers, right or wrong, we will start discussing the question. Okay, we have an answer, 8 a.m. Let us see others. Only one answer. Nobody else is answering this question. Does anybody need more time, or should I start just answering the question? All right. If even one person needs some time, I'm willing to give it. All right, I'm waiting. Take your time. Okay, Raghav has got answer 8:30. I think 8:30 should be the right answer. Somewhat like 8:30 should be the answer. All right, I think we should now start answering the question. Okay, so let's quickly look at it. In this question, we should once again start asking what connection between these two scenarios. We have scenario one and we have scenario number two. Scenario number one is in which he reaches office on time at 10 o'clock, and scenario two is in which he reaches office 30 minutes late. So we have these three parameters to think about: speed, distance, and time. The speeds definitely are different in the two cases. I already have told you that usually the calculations, the equations are never found on speed. Now, distance. Is the relationship between the distances in these two scenarios? Then the answer is yes. That's the simplest thing to think, that the distance in the two scenarios is kept constant, while the times are different, right? So the distance looks like the best variable to start with. The distance is given by the speed multiplied by time, right? So let's assume that the usual speed was s and the usual time taken by the person was t hours, and then the person reaches at 10 o'clock. Now, let's look at what happens when his speed reduces by 25%. If his speed reduces by 25%, the new speed becomes 3/4 of s. The new speed is 3/4 of s, and the new time is earlier time plus 30 minutes. So when we say t plus 30, understand that t is in minutes. So the way we are making the equation confirms the unit of that variable as well. Here the t is in minutes. So now we have this simple equation that we can simplify. S gets cancelled out. From the both sides, we can say 4t is equal to 3 times of t plus 90. That gives us t equal to 90. That means when the person travels at the usual speed, the usual time taken is 90 minutes. So at what time does he starts? 90 minutes before 10 a.m. And that makes it 8:30 a.m. the starting time, right? So we answer this question in this way. There are some fancy methods as well designed to answer the questions like this, which I would like you to avoid. For example, us mathematicians, we have devised several standard relationship in the several standard cases. For example, we say that the speed is equal to distance over time. When the time is equal to constant, then we say that speed is directly proportional to d. That means s1 upon s2 should be equal to d1 upon d2. Similarly, there is another case that we guys have devised that whenever the distance is constant, which is this particular case that we dealt with, then s1 upon s2 can be written as t2 upon t1. So someone might answer this question using this principle that in the first case, the speed is s. In the second case, the speed is 3/4 of s. And in the second case, the time is t plus 30, while in the first case, the time is t. So just simplify this and get t equal to 90 minutes. I would personally urge you to avoid such standard things. Rather, I think in every question, we should understand what kind of relationships do we have among the variables. Does this method make sense to everyone? Does everybody understand how we got the 8:30 a.m. timing? All right. So now that we have discussed this, I'm quickly taking you to a few questions. These are the official questions that I would like all of you to answer. So we'll take like 2 minutes in every questions and then we'll move on. So you will have the target time set. Okay, Ashish is saying that he assumed the initial speed to be 100. So the next speed he took 75, which is absolutely fine. These assumptions are absolutely fine to make. It doesn't make any problem, right? So it's absolutely okay. All right. So I'm stopping this board and I'm sharing with you the questions that I want you to answer, right? All of them are official questions. So I want you to take them very seriously because such question only is going to pop up when you sit in the GMAT environment. So, uh, here we have the first question. Take 2 minutes and answer this question and then we'll move on. We'll answer this and then move on to the next one. 2 minutes. All right, I guess I'll answer this first question quickly here. So, mm, okay, okay. So now let's quickly answer this very first question. Uh, Even I have not answered this question before, so I'm just looking at it for the first time. So Aishwarya was asking whether I really answered this question before. The answer is no, I haven't read it. I'm just going to read it right now. A hiker walked for 2 days. On the second day, the hiker walked 2 hours longer and at an average speed of 1 mile per hour. Okay, so there are day one, day two. He walked here for hiker walked for 2 days. On the second day, the hiker walked 2 hours longer. So T hours, T plus 2 hours at an average speed of 1 mile per hour faster than he walked. So his speed was S. Here the speed was S plus 1. If during the 2 days he walked a total of 64 miles. Now, the total distance is equal to distance on day one plus distance on day two. So the distance is calculated by, because we know that speed is equal to distance over time, speed into time is the distance. So in the first case, d1 is equal to speed multiplied by time. d2 will be speed, which is s plus 1 multiplied by time, which is t plus 2. And the sum is equal to 64 because the question says that he walked a total distance of 64 miles and spent a total of 18 hours walking. Okay, so we also know that t plus 2 is equal to 18. Now we have to quickly simplify this. So we understand that 2t is equal to 16 and t is equal to 8. So on the first day he walked for 8 hours and on the next day he walked for 10 hours. So yes, Ashwadya, you were right. Let's quickly substitute the values here. So t is 8. So 8 into s plus t plus 2 is 10. 10 multiplied by s plus 1 is equal to 64. So we have 18s is equal to 54. S is equal to 3. So that is the speed on day one. What was his average speed on the first day? So on the first day, the speed is 3. So the answer becomes option B. Does it make sense to everyone? Okay. I think I'll quickly take a screenshot if anybody needs it later. And I'm moving on to the next question, right? Everybody, next question. All right. Here is the next question. Oh, I need to clear this as well. I guess I'm still learning, so please forgive me for this mess. Oh. Okay. I think it's a question that is slightly different from the other questions because it also requires some rounding off. So without giving you so much time, if you have understood the basic of it, I think you already are on a right track. Just check it how I'm answering this question. So the question says that on a recent trip, Cindy drove her car 290 miles rounded to the nearest 10 miles and used 12 gasoline rounded to the nearest gallon. So what is the meaning of these two lines? Cindy drove her car 290 miles, rounded to the nearest 10 miles, which means the actual mile is not 290, or it may be 290. It is actually the rounded off number. Rounded to the nearest 10 miles means uh, my, my cursor is not working as great. So let me quickly see because I seem to have missed my cursor somewhere. Okay, now I have it. So 290 miles. That means the distance should actually be anything starting from 285 to anything less than 295. So this is what I wanted you to understand. That is what the rounding off to the nearest 10th mile is. If 284 is rounded to the nearest 10th mile, it becomes 280. If 284.99 is rounded to the nearest 10 miles, it will be again 280. But 285 rounded to the nearest mile will be 290. But 295 likewise should become actually 300. That is the reason I have not put here equal to mark. Does that make sense? So here we have the equal to mark. 285 is included in the distance, but 295 is not included, which means the maximum distance that is possible is 294.999, because that when rounded to the nearest 10 miles will become 290. So please make sure that you take the cognizance of this difference that I have put in on the left side, less than or equal to, and here I have only less than sign. The similar such expression we have to make for the gasoline as well. The question says it used 12 gallons of gasoline rounded to the nearest gallon. So similarly, the gasoline must have been anywhere from 11.5 gallons inclusive to 12.5 gallons exclusive. 12.5 is not inclusive because 12.4999 is inclusive. Now the question is the actual number of miles per gallon that Cindy car got this trip must have been between. So number of miles per gallon, that means we have to maximize mile per gallon. When will this be maximum? This ratio will be maximum when the numerator is as big as possible and the denominator is as small as possible. This is the first principle of maximizing a ratio where both numerator and denominator are positive. In case when the numbers are negative, things change substantially. But here we already know that the miles and the gallons are in positive values. Therefore, we have to maximize the numerator and minimize the denominator in order to maximize the miles per gallon. That means the mileage. So the maximum distance can be 295 and the minimum gallon will be 11.5. But this will not be equal to because 295 is not acceptable, right? But this is the maximum possible value that is possible. So let's just quickly see which option can be ruled out based on this. The question is asking between, and the word between also does not include the boundaries. Please make sure that you digest this fact that the between does not include the boundaries unless the question clearly categorically mentions it. So 295 upon 11.5 will be the maximum mileage. 295, A option is out, B option is out, C option is out, D option remains, and E option is out. Only one option is remains, so the answer has to be anyway option D. Now we can find out the minimum as well. However, that's not needed in this particular question because we already have been able to arrive at a right answer. But just for sake of our understanding, miles per gallon, that means the mileage minimum will be when the numerator is minimum and the denominator is maximum. The minimum numerator will be 285 and that comes in equal to sign, and the maximum denominator, maximum gasoline is 12.5, but that's not inclusive. So once again, we don't have to put the equal to sign here. It is the least boundary. So once again, we have here 285 divided by 12.5. This is exactly what we have. So that makes it the correct answer. D option is the right answer. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Now,
Sir, there is a query, sir.
हाँ,
Sir, ये D में 285 by 12.5 becomes 13. But we have used 12 gallons rounded off. So why are we including 12.5 here?
we are not including. I did say that this is not the equal to sign. The equal to sign does not have to be put in there. So the question is also asking that it has to be exactly in between. So 12.5 is not acceptable. But we can't define 12.499999. How many nines we have to put, we don't know. So we are just simply saying that one boundary is that the mileage has to definitely between without equal to sign 285 upon 12.5 and 295 divided by 11.5, and I am not putting equal to sign anywhere. So that's the minimum and maximum value of the mileage. So the answer becomes D option because the question is anyway asking what is the mileage in between.
Okay, sir.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So clearing this board, taking you to the next question. Where is the annotation? Okay. Next question. Again, an official question. Quickly take 2 minutes, answer this question, everybody. And when you get the answer, you can always put them in the chat box. I would like to see that which of you is getting the right answer, how many of you are getting the answers. Twenty seconds more, and then I'm starting to answer this question. All right, any answers? No answers. So let's answer this question. There are two ways we can approach this question, logically as well as by assuming several good values. The question here says that train X starts from Meerut at 4 p.m. and reaches Ghaziabad at 5 p.m. Here we have Meerut, here we have Ghaziabad. and the total time taken by train X is 1 hour. While another train Y starts from Ghaziabad at 4 p.m. and reaches Meerut at 5:30 p.m. So this Y train is taking 1.5 hours, while this X train is taking 1 hour to reach their destination. So when I was saying that you can take some good numbers to answer this question, probably a good number would be something that can give 1.5 when divided by some number comfortably. So I'm taking a number 15, for instance. Let's say the distance between the two places is 15 kilometers, right? So since train X is taking just 1 hour to cover this distance, so the speed of train X must have been 15 kilometers per hour. And since train Y is taking 1.5 hours to travel this distance, and so the speed of this train Y must have been 10 kilometers per hour, because at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour, it will travel in 1.5 hours. You can always calculate the speed is equal to distance over time. Uh, so that's what we have. Now the question is, the two trains will cross each other at what time? Now we already know the calculation. We can see that the relative speed of the two trains will be equal to 15 plus 10, that is equal to 25 kilometers per hour, right? The relative distance between the two is 15 kilometers, because that they have to cross to meet each other on the way. So the time will be equal to the distance divided by the speed, which is 3 over 5 hours. After 1 p.m., 3 over 5 hours means you have to multiply it by 60 to convert it into minutes. So that becomes 36 minutes. So the answer becomes, is that 36 years? So the answer is option A. That's one way of answering this question. I hope this makes sense to everybody, right? And another way to answer this question. Now we know the first train is taking 1 hour and the second train is taking 1.5 hours. That means, in a way, if we see the ratio of their timing, that will be 2 over 3, right? The first train and the second train's time to cover the distance is 2 over 3. And we also have seen that S1 upon S2 is equal to T2 over T1. That means the ratio of their time is inversely proportional to the ratio of their speeds. That means the speed of the first train should be 3 and the speed of second train should be 2 in terms of the ratio. This is the ratio of speeds and this is the ratio of the time. Now, if we know this, then we can understand that out of every 5 parts, 3 parts will be traveled by train X, right? 3 parts will be traveled by train X. So in how much time will it cover 3 parts? So the 5 parts it covers in 1 hour. So 3 parts it will cover in 3 by 5 of 60 minutes. So that's once again 36 minutes. So here we have just taken the ratio depending upon the ratio of time to be inversely proportional to the ratio of speeds. So that's completely up to you. I think this makes complete sense. This is quite easy. Even if you had assumed the distance to be something else, that would have given you the speed in terms of distance. But taking too many variables is something that I would like to avoid because that makes the calculations complex. So I think I would prefer taking numbers here, and that's what I will recommend. Understood? Any questions here? Okay, I think that's okay. So I'm just clearing this. And before I finish the session, there are so many questions. I think I'll share all these questions with each one of you. But I would just like to discuss maybe 1 or 2 questions of data sufficiency that I've kept in this slide. So I'll quickly discuss them with you. So clearing this board. Take the screenshot if you think feasible. Clearing all my drawings, annotations off. And so, oh, these are too lengthy questions. Anyway, so we have a few data sufficiency questions. Let's quickly see the data sufficiency question number 1. Quickly take 2 minutes, try to answer this question, and then we'll start discussing this. I hope all of you remember the options. The options are option A, first alone sufficient, second is not. Option B, second alone sufficient, first is not. Option C, together the statements are sufficient, but individually they are not. D option, each alone is sufficient. E option, even together they are not sufficient to answer. All right, I think let's discuss this question because now I would like to end the session. So, oof, where is the annotation? Okay, here we have it. Now, the station X and Y are connected by two separate straight parallel rail lines that are 250 miles long. So these are two stations. The distance between them is 250 miles. Train P and Q simultaneously left the station X and Y respectively, and each train traveled to each other's point of departure. The two trains passed each other after traveling for 2 hours. When the two trains passed, which train was nearer to its destination? So it's like quite clear the train that will be nearer to its destination will be the train with higher speed. So to answer this question, we only need to know that which train has greater speed, whether it's train P or train Q. We just need to find out which train has higher speed. The first statement says that at the time when the two trains passed, the P had averaged a speed of 70 miles per hour. So suppose they crossed somewhere. By that time, the train P had averaged a speed of 70 miles per hour, and it has already been 2 hours because they cross after 2 hours. So in 2 hours at a speed of 70, the train must have traveled a distance of 140 and the total distance is 250. That means the other train must have traveled only a distance of 110. That clearly means that train P has a higher speed than train Q, right? Train P traveled 140 miles in 2 hours, while train Q traveled 110 miles in 2 hours. That means the speed of train P is equal to 70 miles per hour, while the speed of train Q will be equal to 55 miles per hour. So we have the answer to the question. So definitely out of the 5 options, we can eliminate 3 options, which are B, C, and E. We are left with choices only A and D. We just have to check whether second alone is sufficient or not. The second statement says that train Q averaged a speed of 55 miles per hour for the entire trip. Now, we should quickly be able to understand that this statement is clearly not sufficient to answer the question because this statement is talking about the average speed during the entire journey. So it could have been possible that initially till the time the two trains crossed each other, the train Q had a average speed quite high, but then it stops right before the station, just like it happens usually in India, right? So in that case, the average will continue to go down because the average speed is simply the function of total distance divided by the total time. And the total time could be substantially more just because it stopped somewhere after crossing the other train. So the average speed during the entire trip does not ensure the average speed till the crossing point. Therefore, we don't know the average speed that Q maintained till the point they crossed each other. So the second statement is not sufficient. D option is out and A option becomes our answer. Understood? All right. I think that it's been almost 1.5 hour long session. So I would like to stop here for the day. I'll share with you all these questions. I'm just stopping the screen share so far, right? And if you have any questions that you want to discuss with me, then please post me in the chat box. If you have any good feedback to share about the session, then open it, then share it publicly. If you have any bad feedback, then share it privately, please. Huh? So that only I come to know what is bad about it. Anyway, so I'm just sharing the screen, stopping the share the screen here. I hope you have taken the note of it. And just stay for the while in the session. I'm just going to share the PDF of this thing so that you all can download it. So just give me 1 second so that I can share this with all of you. File save as desktop. PDF version. File, computer, desktop, open. Yes, Raghav, the recording of this session will be available on my YouTube channel most likely, but let me just check whether the recording has been done fine, right? But it should be available there. Oof. So just 1 second. By mistake, I shared the file only with one person. Okay, here is the file for everyone. Now I think you can take a download from here and we will stop the session here, right? Thank you so much for being here. If there is any verbal session tomorrow, I think Sushma ma'am will communicate to you in person, to all of you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Stay safe. Ending the meeting, please download the PDF.